Welcome back, everybody. We are the Alter Ego Brothers. I'm Nick, that's Andy, and today we're talking about the drama. But first, like and subscribe, like and subscribe, like and subscribe, like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe, like and subscribe. Oh, I went too long.
You did. But now that we've got that out of the way, we don't have to do it again until the very end, which you should stick around because we're going to say something pretty funny after that point. Andy's got something so hilarious that he's going to say that it'll literally, and I mean literally, make you shit your pants. All right, so let's get our scores out of the way. I'm going to just preface this real quick. I had no idea what movie I was walking into. I honestly thought when I saw the trailer for this that this was some sort of rom-com about two strangers who were like getting together. Like it was just like for looks. Like they didn't really know each other or anything like that. I don't know where I got any of that from at all. I'm going to be honest. I was like, I went in with that expectation. I was like, what the fuck is this? That being said, I gave the drama a 10 out of 10. I thought that the script felt real, that the actors were very authentic, and I could not see any area in this movie to fault it for. If this is any indication on how the rest of 2026 is going to go for Robert Pattinson and Zendaya for their 3 movies together, and Zendaya's Spider-Man thrown in the middle of all of that, we are truly in for a historic year.
So to preface, I too thought this was going to be a lot more indie and it was going to get a little bit kind of weird to the point that I didn't understand what the heck was happening. But then I saw names start popping up on the screen. I knew some of the actors already, but some of the music was Daniel Pemberton again. I was like, this motherfucker's back. I was like, okay, I think maybe we're in good hands, judging by the name that I saw up there. So I was pleasantly surprised with this one and I really enjoyed it too. I landed at a 9 out of 10 for this movie. However, I am doing my first and one and only, possibly, maybe I'll do another one again in the future, bonus point, because Robert Pattinson said my name twice.
He did say your name twice. He did say your name twice.
Holy shit, that was awesome. So this is a 10 out of 10, baby. No question about it.
Nice. So obviously that goes as a 10 on our tier list. I'm not going to show you any of that. I am going to say we're going to talk about the story here. A lot of what this movie has to offer is going to turn a lot of people off. I do recognize that not only the subject matter can be triggering, so there's your warning for that, but the type of humor that is also in it, a lot of people don't like. But I know it's exactly what Andy and I like. It's very close to being Tim Robinson-esque humor. It's not quite at that level of awkwardness, but it gets really fucking close. I actually don't want to talk too much about the story in detail because I think it's really reliant on what it gives to the audience to think about through the course of the film, that I don't want to rob that of anybody. That being said, I do think that we have a solid point A and a solid point B that you know how it's going to begin and you know how it's going to end, but that journey in between, nobody has any fucking clue about what's coming, and that's the brilliance of this movie. So if you're at the least bit curious from what we've said up to this point, go and see the movie.
It's one of the very few movies that I had an impossible time trying to predict where this was going, and it kept surprising me in both weird but exciting and confusing, but like totally makes sense. It takes you on an emotional journey. That's what it is.
A lot of the drama rides on Zendaya and Robert Pattinson as Emma and Charlie. They are just magnetic together. They are a powerhouse. I did not know how good their chemistry would be, because Robert's quite a bit older. It was just flawless. They're quirky, they're awkward, they're able to understand each other. But more importantly, both Zendaya and Robert Pattinson are able to communicate without saying anything. There are scenes in this movie where you, as the audience member, only have the vibe that they put out and their body language to go off what they're trying to communicate to each other as characters. The work that was put behind that was just stunning. It is some of the best acting that I've seen since Sinners. Truly, like it was so good. I also wanted to shout out Alana Haim, who played Rachel in the movie, because in the best way possible, I fucking hated you in this movie. Like, you are a bitch in this movie. So great job.
Yeah, I think, so as far as acting goes, and this kind of ties into the story, but because it's talking about the characters, I really thought all the characters felt natural. A lot of the decisions they made, a lot of the emotions they expressed just felt normal. It's like, that's how somebody would react. That's what they would say in this moment. It actually really felt like this was a real life scenario that happened, and then they just put it to story and movie form. To your point about the acting and the chemistry between Robert Pattinson and Zendaya, I could not help but be completely mesmerized just by their eyes. I was like, their eyes are just speaking 1,000 words right now. The emotions they're able to express and everything you're able to gather just by how they look at each other was uncanny. I've never seen that before. That chemistry was just way, way, way too good. I also, God, I almost feel like this is offensive. I really do. But I genuinely believe it's Robert Pattinson's best performance ever. And it's honestly such a simple performance, but yet it's so complicated too. And it just seems like this character fit his personality the best out of everything he's ever done. And because of that, he just absolutely killed it. Like his awkwardness and quirkiness and just seriousness, like just blended into this character. And to see Zendaya playing off of that too, and that whole vibe, I thought Zendaya was marvelous in this as well. This might be her best performance yet. It feels offensive to say it, because I feel like when you do something like the Batman and stuff, like that should be your best performance. Goddamn, I've always said he'd be the best Batman ever, and I think he is.
He really did.
But this is his best performance ever.
He's just such an entertaining dude to watch, even outside of movies. Like, his interviews are always fucking hilarious and bangers. He just makes shit up and lies constantly. It's so funny. I wanted to talk about the music just a little bit, because a lot of this story has very awkward, very clumsy, very precise moments that are supposed to make you think, that are supposed to offend, and that are supposed to make you laugh. And I think the music was perfect. There were moments at the beginning that were a lot more thought out and melodical, and you could see everything going according to plan. But as the story progresses, the music gets just as chaotic as the story does itself, not only in what is being played as far as chords and notes go, but we get a lot of plucking, we get a lot of random kind of squeals and notes that happen. I really want to tell you all about this movie, but I know by putting more information out there, it's going to spoil the whole thing. And I really want everybody who's watching to experience this movie the same way that I did. So I'm sorry if it's just a bunch of double talk and nonsensical. Once you watch it, come back and it'll make complete sense. I swear to God.
Maybe I can summarize your thoughts on the music. As I said in the beginning, I was surprised to see Daniel Pemberton's name up there. And part of that surprise is because he also did Project Hail Mary, which is a huge score for him and probably something he wants to be nominated for an Oscar for. So I would have thought, since these came out at the same time, he would not be working on these projects at the same time. So I'm curious how that timeline works out. But I mentioned then, and I'll mention it again here, I learned recently that there's a dedicated fan base to Daniel Pemberton, who they're so pissed he's never won an Oscar. And I've never really paid much attention to what he's done specifically. I've looked at his work and he's done a whole slew of stuff. But lot of the stuff that I recognize he's done, I'm just like, oh yeah, I've always noticed the music in those things, and it always just fit that theme really well. And he does that again here. His number one ability is to take any sort of scene, movie, situation, whatever it might be, and find the perfect music to fit that exact moment. And it might not always be a score that necessarily is the most congruent score ever, like a Hans Zimmer that has like a natural melody throughout the entire film. But in Daniel Pemberton's work, like when it's an awkward scene, you feel awkward. When it's light and uplifting, you feel light and uplifted. And I think where he captures the most, the emotions the most is in the silence. That's where he really takes advantage of all of that feeling in you. Because as you mentioned, the plucks and stuff, like I remember the solo flutes with just a lot of dry, empty space, and then and like it's just like, oh man, this whole thing. So because of that, the music's in good hands. And when you got strong scores to enhance the story and can tell the story just through the musical score, you got a story that's going to mimic a 10 out of 10, and as we mentioned, is a 10 out of 10 today.
But as always, don't just take our word for it. Let's see what the internet has to say. That was right?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. As far as the audience goes, it looks like they landed at an 8 out of 10. And then critic-wise, they're a tad lower at a 7 out of 10. And like I said, I think this is going to be very divisive. When you look at it, just technically speaking, it's still going to get a higher score. I think a lot of people will feel that regardless of the subject matter. But that's why I think our score is also higher and more correct.
I will always admit that I'm completely biased in a movie that has Robert Pattinson in it, especially when he says my name twice.
Since we're all the way at we gotta look at the bottom. We gotta.
Obviously.
This is a 1 out of 10, and it reads, "Is that it?" The film has a couple of moments in it that elicit a smile, but other than that, I really struggled to see what the film was really going for. It was just a really, really slow story focused around one thing, and then an ending that left us going, is that it? I feel I must have missed something compared to other reviews who have scored it much higher.
Yes.
Good. Yeah, yeah, they did miss like the movie, I think. I don't know where. You point out to me the parts that you thought were slow, and I will be surprised. Okay.
That were not dramatic.
To not know what the movie is about when it so clearly asks the audience a question that it doesn't expect to answer. There is such a clear question that this movie asks of you.
Slight tangent. I'm done with the review part. This movie, in my theater, there were a lot of people clearly on dates. Man, this is the question all of them are asking each other right now, like playing this scenario. What would you do? And it's like, what a fun scenario to kind of like play with. And like, what would you do if, the thing? and so yeah, to miss that, it's crazy.
And that'll about wrap things up for us. But before you go, thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing. And like I promised at the very beginning, Andy is going to make you shit your pants. We always put stingers at the end, so it'll definitely be there.
I'm editing it, so I'll make sure it's definitely there.
Okay, I can't wait to see what this is.
Neither can I.
And remember, we're just two regular dudes
doing regular reviews.
Beavis.